The arrival that wasn't welcome. The colossal Galactic Council ship emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, its radiant hull shimmering like liquid pearl against the infinite blackness of space. Inside, first speaker Valon, a towering figure with sleek, emerald skin and elongated limbs, stood on the bridge. His posture was impeccable, radiating the calm assurance of a species that had peacefully integrated hundreds of civilizations into the interstellar fold. Another world to uplift, Valon declared, his voice steady as he gazed at the blue planet in the distance. Around him, the bridge crew of varying alien species worked efficiently, each station humming with advanced technologies honed over millennia. Begin first contact protocols. The routine was simple: project peaceful intent, observe from a safe distance, and wait for the excited response. It was a method perfected over countless missions. The Council was always welcomed. Until now. Within moments of their arrival, an unsettling scene unfolded. Sensors picked up an almost immediate surge of activity throughout the solar system. Satellites shifted their orbits with unnerving precision, and structures hidden in the shadows of planetary bodies revealed themselves. Earth's outer defenses came alive like a well-rehearsed orchestra, presenting a picture far removed from the simple, naive civilization the Council's preliminary surveys had painted. Speaker, called Laya, the tactical officer, her three eye stalks twitching in unison. Human defenses are active. Multiple platforms are locking onto us. Valon's expression faltered for the briefest moment. Locking onto us? That can't be right. They're a Category 2 civilization, barely capable of interplanetary travel. Leah shook her eye stalks in what her species used as a gesture of uncertainty. Our data must be outdated. Their orbital platforms are not only advanced, they're armed. Some appear to use hybrid technologies unlike anything in our databases. The first speaker hesitated. No species had ever responded this way to the Council's overtures. The humans' actions were calculated, deliberate. They weren't panicking or scrambling. They were preparing for war. Earth responds. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in a fortified bunker filled with glowing monitors and the hum of servers, General Adam Wolf of the United Earth Defense Command leaned over a tactical table displaying a real-time hologram of the alien ship. It was massive, dwarfing the human warships now assembling around Earth's orbital zones. Status report, Wolf demanded, his tone clipped but calm. All orbital platforms are live and locked, replied Commander Leela Chen, her hands moving deftly across the interface. The Archangel fleet has assumed defensive formations at the lunar perimeter. Stealth carriers are holding positions near Mars. Wolf's steel-gray eyes narrowed. And the message. Chen's lips pressed into a thin line. Sent, sir. Short and simple. Maintain a safe distance. Any approach will be considered an act of hostility. Wolf nodded. The message was clear, the intent unmistakable. Humanity had learned the hard way that the universe was not kind. Their history was etched with scars of battles fought in the shadows of stars, remnants of alien technology reverse-engineered into their own defenses. Trust was a luxury Earth could no longer afford. The Council's shock. Back on the bridge of the Council ship, Valon stared at the single line of text that had just appeared on the comm screen. The humans had responded, not with the awe or curiosity they had expected, but with a warning, a threat. Maintain a safe distance, Valon read aloud. His voice, usually steady, now carried a tinge of disbelief. Any approach will be considered an act of hostility. The bridge fell silent. Even the hum of the ship's systems seemed muted. No species, not even the most warlike, had ever responded to the Council with such unprovoked aggression. This isn't right, said Alira, the communications officer, her translucent, jelly-like form shifting uneasily. Our greeting message was broadcast on all frequencies. They should know we come in peace. Perhaps they don't believe us, muttered Laya, her voice low. How could they not? Valon snapped, uncharacteristically sharp. He gestured to the holographic display of Earth. This is a primitive world. They should be begging to join the council, not threatening us. But the evidence on the screen suggested otherwise. More human warships emerged from hidden positions, their movements precise and practiced. Their fleet wasn't cobbled together in haste. It was an organized, disciplined force, the product of years of preparation. The chilling realization. Velan's frustration gave way to unease as the science officer, a stoic, insectoid figure named Drell, spoke up. "Speaker, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from several of their installations. Some of these are defensive platforms, but others appear to be remnants of combat." Combat. Valon turned sharply. Drell nodded, his mandibles clicking. Yes, many of their satellites and structures show signs of previous battles, scorch marks, patchwork repairs, and damage consistent with weapon impacts. These humans, they fought before. The room grew colder. If the humans had fought off alien threats before, it could explain their advanced hybrid technology. It also explained their readiness. "Speaker," Leah said, her voice trembling slightly, "they're not reacting like a species encountering advanced life for the first time. They're reacting like a species that's learned not to trust anyone coming from the stars." Velon's gaze returned to the image of Earth. This was not a planet awaiting salvation. It was a fortress, and the Council's perfect record of peaceful first contact was in danger of being shattered. The warning shots. "Pull us back," Valon ordered finally. "We'll approach from a different angle and try again." But as the Council ship adjusted its trajectory, a burst of energy cut through the vacuum of space, a warning shot from one of Earth's orbital platforms. It passed just ahead of the Council ship, close enough to rattle its shields. The message was clear. The bridge crew stared at the display in stunned silence. "They fired a warning shot," Leia whispered. "No species has ever." "I know," Valon snapped, his composure finally breaking. He turned to the communications officer. "Send another message. Apologize for any perceived intrusion. Tell them we mean no harm." Elira hesitated. "Speaker, they're jamming our transmissions." Valon stared at her, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. Humanity wasn't just refusing the Council's offer. They were actively blocking it. Shadows of humanity's past. The Galactic Council's massive diplomatic chamber was a symphony of chaos. Representatives from over 300 species filled the Grand Hall, their varied voices rising in discordant tones. The circular chamber, typically a beacon of unity and reason, now echoed with fear and confusion. First Speaker Valon stood at the central podium, his emerald skin unusually pale. Holograms floated above him, showing Earth's unprecedented response to the Council's overtures, a stark refusal backed by unmatched defensive readiness. "The humans have declined our every attempt at diplomacy," Valon announced, his voice trained but firm. "They have fortified their solar system with technology that defies their known capabilities. They fired upon our vessel, not as an attack, but as a warning." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The crystalline representative of the Lornai flickered in agitation, their translucent form glowing with pulses of violet and gold. "Impossible. No species has ever rejected the Council outright, let alone with such hostility. They are primitives, barely reaching their moon." Valon raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. "Our initial assessments were wrong. They are not primitives. They are survivors. Fragments of forgotten wars." Back on Earth, humanity's leaders convened in an underground command bunker, their faces lit by the cool glow of holographic displays. President Alina Vega, a sharp-eyed woman with silver-streaked hair, addressed the room with unwavering resolve. "The Council's arrival marks the 4th time in recorded history that an extraterrestrial force has reached our system," she began, her voice calm but heavy with the weight of their history. "But unlike the others, they claim to come in peace. Do we believe them?" A murmur of dissent spread through the room. General Wolf, leaning over the holographic map of the solar system, spoke up. "Peace was what the Arcanids promised before they enslaved half of Asia. Peace was what the Thrixians whispered before they unleashed their bioweapons. We've heard the word before. We've paid for it in blood. The room fell silent. Humanity's scars ran deep. The Arcanid War, the Thrixian Plague, the silent eradication of colonies on Europa. All had left humanity wary and untrusting of anything from beyond the stars. Still, Vega continued, this is the first time we've faced a force that hasn't fired upon us outright. They haven't even approached aggressively. Could they truly be different? Wolf frowned. Their ship is enormous, President. It's not a scout vessel. It's a flagship. They don't need to fire weapons to impose their will. They have presence alone. The Council's next move. While Earth's leaders debated their course of action, the Galactic Council's intelligence division scrambled to piece together the enigma that was humanity. Director Tolm, a towering cybernetic being whose metallic frame glinted under the chamber's lights, stepped forward. We have reviewed centuries of human data, Tolm began, projecting a series of images onto the massive screens. Scenes of Earth's war-torn history played out, conflicts that shaped their world, revolutions that redefined their species, and catastrophic wars that nearly wiped them out. These humans, Tolm continued, his mechanical voice steady, are not like other species we've encountered. Their capacity for destruction is matched only by their resilience. They do not wait for saviors. They'd forge their own survival. And he hesitated, zooming in on an image of a battle-scarred human warship. Their technology is borrowed. A murmur spread through the chamber. Tolm expanded the image, highlighting a strange amalgamation of designs. Their ships and weapons integrate technologies from at least 3 distinct alien civilizations. They've adapted what they've salvaged from the enemies they've defeated. Defeated? Valen interrupted, his voice sharp. You're saying the humans have fought and won against extraterrestrial forces before? Tolm nodded. At least 3 times. The Arcanid Hive in 2134, the Thrixian Incursion in 2167, and the Silent War of Europa in 2192. In each instance, humanity was not the aggressor, but they were the victor. The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't simply advanced. They were forged in conflict, their strength a product of survival. The warning of the wall. Back in the solar system, Earth's defenses continued to grow. Satellites moved into precise formations, forming an intricate web of deterrence. Around the asteroid belt, newly constructed platforms bristled with weaponry that shimmered ominously in the distant sunlight. Mars, once a barren wasteland, now housed formidable bases capable of launching planetary-scale offensives. In orbit above Jupiter, the UES Aegis, a battlecruiser of unparalleled might, monitored the Council's movements. Its captain, Elijah Kane, observed the Council ship through the thick, reinforced glass of his bridge. Captain, his tactical officer reported, the Council ship has adjusted its position. They're holding just outside the queue line. No further movements. Kane nodded, his jaw set. They're testing us, seeing how far they can push without provoking a full-scale response. The officer hesitated. Do you think they're different from the others? Sir, they haven't attacked. They're just watching. Kane's eyes narrowed. Maybe. But in this universe, hesitation gets you killed. We're not taking chances. The Aegis remained motionless, a silent sentinel standing guard over humanity's outer territories. Its weapons, though dormant, hummed with potential energy, a promise of devastation should the Council overstep. A universe of secrets. Back on the Council ship, Valen stared out the viewport, his expression grim. The humans' response had rattled the crew, but Valen felt something deeper, a curiosity, a desire to understand what lay beneath the surface of their defiance. These humans, he murmured to Laya, the tactical officer, they don't act out of arrogance. They act out of knowledge. Experience. What do they know that we don't? Leah hesitated, her eye stalks lowering. Perhaps they've seen the darkness we claim to protect them from. Perhaps they fought it, survived it, Valon turned, his gaze heavy. Then the question isn't why they reject us. The question is, what do they fear more than us? A fragile bridge between stars. The silence between Earth and the Galactic Council ship was palpable, a tense void filled with unanswered questions and unspoken fears. In the vacuum of space, silence was natural. But this silence carried weight. It was the sound of two civilizations on the brink of something unprecedented. Deep within the Council's flagship, First Speaker Valon paced the bridge, his long strides betraying his frustration. The humans' refusal to communicate was an enigma, one that defied millennia of precedent. He turned to Leia, the tactical officer, her eye stalks rigid as she monitored Earth's defenses. "Have we made any progress deciphering their motivations?" Valon asked, his voice clipped. Leia hesitated, a rare show of uncertainty. "Speaker, their actions suggest a lack of trust. They are not acting out of fear, but calculated caution. They're treating us as a threat." Valon's four eyes narrowed. "A threat? We've offered nothing but peace." "They've likely heard those words before," Leia replied grimly, "and suffered for believing them." The diplomat's gamble. In a small vessel docked within the flagship's hangar, Ambassador Taller prepared for an unprecedented mission. Taller's species, the Seraphim, were renowned for their innate ability to bridge divides, their shimmering, feathered forms, often seen as symbols of peace. But even Taller felt the weight of the moment. "This is madness," Taller murmured, adjusting the intricate fabric of his ceremonial robes. "We've never forced contact before. It goes against every tenet of our charter." Valon's holographic image appeared before Taller, his voice steady but resolute. "Ambassador, you are our last chance at understanding these humans. If they refuse you, we risk not just a failed first contact, but the possibility of open conflict." Taller sighed, his golden feathers dimming slightly. "Very well, but I will go alone. No escorts, no armed support." Valon hesitated. "That's too dangerous. They will not trust strength." Taller interrupted. "If we are to reach them, it must be with vulnerability." A meeting at the edge. Taller's small vessel, unarmed and unshielded, drifted slowly toward Earth's orbital defenses. Inside underground command centers, humanity's leaders watched the approach with hawk-like focus. President Vega's gaze was fixed on the screen, where Taller's ship shimmered against the backdrop of Earth. "No escorts," she murmured. "They're sending a diplomat." "Or bait," General Wolf interjected, his tone sharp. "We've seen this tactic before. Use diplomacy to lower defenses, then strike." Vega frowned but didn't dismiss the possibility. "What's our tactical assessment?" Commander Chen's voice came through the comms. "All orbital platforms are locked on the vessel. If it so much as twitches in the wrong direction, it'll be neutralized." Wolf leaned forward. "Let's see what they want." As Taller's vessel reached the designated safe zone, the ambassador initiated a broadcast on all frequencies. His voice, melodic and serene, filled the command bunker. "This is Ambassador Taller of the Galactic Council," he began. "I come unarmed, with no intention of harm. I seek only to understand humanity's answer." The bunker fell silent as Taller's words resonated. General Wolf exchanged a glance with President Vega, whose expression remained unreadable. "He's either the most naive diplomat in the galaxy or the boldest," Wolf muttered. Vega's response was measured. "Perhaps both. Let's test his sincerity." Moments later, Taller's vessel received a response. A single message beamed directly to his ship. "Hold position. Await instructions." Taller exhaled, relief washing over him. It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't rejection either. He remained still, his ship a lone beacon of hope against the backdrop of Earth's formidable defenses. The first words. Hours later, a secure transmission connected Taller's vessel to a human facility. The screen flickered to life, revealing President Vega and a select group of Earth's leaders. Their faces were stern, their eyes calculating. You are the first to ask instead of demand. Vega began, her voice even but firm. For that, you have earned this conversation. Speak. Talar bowed his head respectfully. President Vega, representatives of Earth, I come on behalf of the Galactic Council. Our purpose is not conquest, but unity. We wish to share knowledge, resources, and the prosperity of the stars. Vega's expression didn't waver. And what do you wish in return? Talar hesitated, sensing the weight of her question. Only your participation. Your voice among the stars. Vega leaned back, her gaze piercing. Forgive me if we don't find that altruistic. History has taught us that nothing comes without a price. So, Ambassador, tell me, what price do you truly seek? The weight of trust. Talar paused, choosing his words carefully. The Council does not demand tribute or obedience. We seek cooperation. But we understand. Trust is not easily given. Vega's lips tightened. Trust is earned. And your council arrives in a ship large enough to intimidate any world it visits. That doesn't scream cooperation. It screams domination. The word struck Talar like a blow. I see, he said softly. You faced others before us. Others who came with false promises. Vega didn't reply, but the silence was answer enough. A fragile understanding. For hours, the conversation continued, a dance of words and guarded truths. Talar spoke of the Council's history, its successes, and its failures. Vega listened, her skepticism unrelenting but her curiosity evident. Finally, Talar made his boldest move. If you doubt our intentions, test them. Choose a neutral ground, a place where both of us are vulnerable. Let us meet as equals. The room in the bunker grew still. Wolf leaned toward Vega. It's a trap. Perhaps, Vega replied. Or perhaps it's the first honest gesture we've seen from the stars. Beneath the veil of stars, the atmosphere aboard the Council flagship was tense, an unnatural stillness permeating the vast vessel. First Speaker Valen stood by the panoramic viewport, gazing at the distant Earth, its blue and green surface marred by the presence of human warships and orbital defenses. The humans had finally agreed to a neutral meeting ground, but the cost of this tenuous accord weighed heavily on everyone. Are we truly prepared for this? Leia asked, her eye stalks quivering as she monitored incoming reports. Their mistrust runs deep, and their defenses are unlike anything we've ever encountered. Valen didn't respond immediately. His thoughts were a storm of uncertainty and determination. No first contact has ever required such measures. But we cannot abandon this mission. Understanding these humans is now a priority, not just for peace, but for survival. The chosen ground. In the heart of the asteroid belt, an abandoned mining station was selected as the neutral meeting point. Its dilapidated structure, riddled with craters and debris, floated silently amidst the endless void. The location was symbolic, isolated, vulnerable, and utterly neutral. Neither Earth nor the Council could claim dominance here. President Vega stared at the holographic representation of the station from Earth's command bunker. This is the first step, she said quietly. But it's also a risk. General Wolf stood at her side, his expression hard. A risk we can't take lightly. Our ships will remain within strike range. One wrong move, and that station will be dust. Vega nodded. Understood. But if there's even a chance for something greater, we need to take it. Arrivals. The meeting was set for a single day. 2 ships approached the mining station from opposite directions. One from Earth, carrying President Vega and her closest advisors, and one from the Council flagship, carrying First Speaker Valen and Ambassador Talar. Both vessels moved cautiously, their escorts lingering just beyond sensor range. Inside the station, the silence was oppressive, the air stale and heavy with the scent of age. The central meeting chamber, once a hub for miners and traders, was now a makeshift conference room. Long tables, worn and pitted, had been arranged in the center. No weapons were allowed, and both sides adhered to the rule, though trust was a fragile thing. Vega stepped into the chamber first, her posture strong but not overtly aggressive. She wore a simple yet commanding uniform, a stark contrast to Valon's intricate ceremonial robes. The first speaker entered moments later, his towering figure almost unnaturally graceful. For a long moment, the two leaders regarded each other in silence. First speaker Valon, Vega said, breaking the tension. Her voice was calm but firm. "I trust your journey here was uneventful." "President Vega," Valon replied, bowing slightly. "It was enlightening." The opening words. The discussions began cautiously, each side probing for weakness while trying to maintain a veneer of diplomacy. Valon spoke of the Council's purpose, a coalition of species united for mutual prosperity and peace. He described a galaxy where knowledge and resources were shared, where conflict was resolved through dialogue. Vega listened intently, her expression unreadable. "Your ideals sound noble," she said finally. "But history has taught us that noble intentions often hide darker truths." Talar leaned forward, his golden feathers catching the dim light. "We do not seek to hide anything from you, President. If there are doubts, we are willing to address them openly." "Then answer me this," Vega said, her voice sharp. "Why does your council come with such overwhelming force? A ship the size of a city, armed with technology far beyond ours. You speak of peace, yet your presence screams domination." Valon hesitated, the question cutting deeper than he had anticipated. "Our vessel is not meant to intimidate. It is a symbol of our unity, a reminder of what we have achieved together." Vega's eyes narrowed. "And what happens to those who refuse your unity?" "Humanity's secrets." The conversation shifted, and the humans began to reveal fragments of their history. Vega spoke of the Arcanid hive and their brutal invasion, of the Thrixian plague that decimated entire continents, and of the silent war on Europa, where an unknown force wiped out humanity's first off-world colony. "We've survived things you can't imagine," Vega said, her voice heavy with the weight of memory. "And we've done so by learning, adapting, and standing together. We don't trust easily because trust has cost us too much." Talar listened in stunned silence. The Council's intelligence reports had hinted at conflict, but hearing it from the humans themselves was different. Their scars weren't just physical, they were etched into their very identity. "We never knew," Valon admitted, his voice softer now. "Your resilience, your ingenuity, it's extraordinary." "Extraordinary," Wolf scoffed, his voice cutting through the chamber. "It's survival, plain and simple, and we'll do whatever it takes to keep surviving." The fragile bridge. As the hours passed, the tone of the meeting shifted. The initial hostility began to give way to cautious understanding. Both sides recognized that they were more alike than different, each shaped by struggles, each striving to secure a future for their people. Valon took a calculated risk. "President Vega, we understand your caution. We've seen your strength. But if we are to move forward, we must find a way to trust each other. What would it take for humanity to believe in the Council's intentions?" Vega leaned back, considering his words. "Actions speak louder than words." First speaker, "If you want trust, then prove your intentions. Share your knowledge without strings attached. Let us see the Council's true face." Talar turned to Valon, his golden feathers shimmering with hope. "It's a fair request." First speaker, "Transparency could be the bridge we need." Valon hesitated but finally nodded. "Very well. We will share our archives, our technology, freely. But in return, we ask for a chance to prove that unity is possible." The burden of unity. The mining station drifted in silence once more, but the aftermath of the historic meeting lingered in the minds of both humans and aliens. On Earth, in command centers buried deep beneath the surface, humanity's leaders convened to dissect the encounter and decide their next steps. President Alina Vega sat at the head of the war table, her eyes scanning the faces of her advisors. A single data crystal lay before her, the Council's gift, containing archives of interstellar knowledge. It pulsed faintly, its glow a reminder of the fragile bridge humanity had just begun to cross. "What's the verdict?" Vega asked, breaking the silence. General Wolf, ever the pragmatist, crossed his arms. "It's bait. They dangle their so-called knowledge in front of us, hoping we'll bite. Once we do, they'll tighten the leash." "But what if it's not?" interjected Commander Leela Chen. "What if this is their genuine attempt at peace? Can we afford to dismiss it outright?" Wolf's eyes narrowed. "Can we afford to trust it? The crystal's secrets." Deep within a secured laboratory, Earth's top scientists analyzed the data crystal. Its technology was unlike anything they'd encountered, organic yet mechanical, and brimming with information so dense it would take years to fully decode. Dr. Elena Ramirez, the lead scientist, stood before the Council of Leaders with her initial findings. The crystal contains blueprints for advanced energy systems, medical breakthroughs, and something that appears to be a star map of Council territory. "It's overwhelming. Too much, too fast," Wolf muttered. "Why hand us the keys to their empire?" Ramirez hesitated before continuing. "There's something else. Buried in the data are references to something they call the Veil Initiative. It's redacted, but the fragments suggest it's some kind of containment effort." "Containment of what?" Vega asked, her voice sharp. Ramirez shook her head. "I don't know yet, but whatever it is, they've gone to great lengths to hide it." The Council's warning. On the Council flagship, First Speaker Valen sat in his private quarters, reviewing reports from the mining station meeting. His usually composed demeanor had cracked, replaced by a quiet frustration. Ambassador Toller entered, his golden feathers dimmed. "You've seen the humans' response." Valen nodded, his voice heavy. "They're divided. Suspicious. But that is to be expected." "They found the Veil references," Toller said quietly. Valen's gaze snapped to Toller, his four eyes narrowing. "That wasn't supposed to happen." "It was unavoidable," Toller replied. "The humans are too curious, too resourceful. They'll unravel the truth eventually." Valen leaned back, his expression grim. "Then we must ensure they understand the stakes. The Veil Initiative is not just a council matter. It's a threat to all life in the galaxy. A dangerous revelation." Back on Earth, Ramirez and her team continued to unravel the secrets of the crystal. Late one night, as the lab hummed with activity, a breakthrough occurred. Hidden deep within the data were fragmented images, blurry, distorted glimpses of alien monstrosities, gigantic forms that defied comprehension, their shapes twisting and shifting like living nightmares. Dr. Ramirez, one of her assistants, called out, his voice shaking. "You need to see this." Ramirez approached the console, her breath catching as the images coalesced into something coherent. A single word flashed across the screen: cataclysm. In the corner of the file, an encrypted message bore the council's insignia. With trembling hands, Ramirez initiated the decryption. The message was brief but chilling. "The Veil protects us all. Without it, these entities will consume everything. Do not interfere." A crossroads. The following day, Vega convened an emergency meeting. The decrypted message was displayed on the central screen, its ominous warning casting a shadow over the room. "So this is why they're here," Wolf said, his tone grim. "Not for diplomacy. Not for unity. They want us to help them keep the monsters at bay." Chen frowned. "Or they're hiding something worse. What if they created these entities? What if the Veil is their attempt to cover up their mistakes?" Vega's voice cut through the debate. "Enough. The question isn't what they've done. It's what we do now. Do we engage with them, or do we shut them out entirely?" The room fell silent, the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone. Humanity's past had been defined by its ability to adapt and survive, but this was a choice that went beyond survival. It was a question of trust, of belief in something greater than themselves. The first step. In orbit, the UES Aegis received an unexpected communication from the Council flagship. It was Valen himself, his image projected onto the warship's bridge. "Captain Elijah Kane," Valon began, his voice calm but urgent. "We need to speak, off the record." Kane leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Why the sudden change in protocol?" "Because the truth cannot wait," Valon replied. "The veil is not just our burden. It is a danger to your world as well. If it fails, everything you fought to protect will be lost." Kane's jaw tightened. "You're asking us to trust you. But trust isn't something we give lightly." "I'm not asking for trust," Valon said. "I'm asking for cooperation. There are forces in this galaxy that even humanity cannot face alone. The burden of unity." As the conversation unfolded, the fragile bridge between Earth and the Council began to take shape. Both sides understood the stakes, but the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. Humanity had always walked the line between hope and pragmatism, and this was no exception. President Vega, watching the exchange from the command center, knew the decision was hers to make. The burden of unity weighed heavily on her shoulders, but she also knew that isolation was no longer an option. If the veil truly held back an existential threat, then humanity would have to step into the unknown, together. The shadows beyond the veil. The mining station, once a forgotten relic, had become the center of an unfolding mystery. The fragile alliance between humanity and the Galactic Council was now balanced on a knife's edge, held together by a shared fear of the unknown. Yet the truth about the Veil Initiative still eluded complete understanding. In Earth's fortified command center, President Elena Vega stared at the latest decrypted fragments of the Council's data crystal. The distorted images and ominous warnings hinted at something far greater than diplomacy or power. It hinted at a threat older and darker than anything humanity had faced. General Wolf leaned over the table, his tone harsh. "This changes everything. We're not just dealing with a council trying to push their agenda. They're hiding something they can't control." Commander Chen, seated nearby, interjected. "Or something they're trying to protect us from." The Council's unspoken history. On the Council flagship, First Speaker Valon gathered with his most trusted advisors in a private chamber. The atmosphere was heavy with unease, their usual air of superiority overshadowed by doubt. Ambassador Tauler, his feathers dull and ruffled, spoke first. "The humans are not fools. They've already uncovered fragments of the Veil Initiative. We cannot hide the truth much longer." Valon's gaze was sharp. "And if we reveal everything, do you think they'll trust us more or less?" Tauler hesitated. "It depends on how we tell the story." Valon's expression hardened. "The story is not ours to tell. The Veil Initiative predates the Council itself. It was created out of necessity, a desperate attempt to contain the entities that once ravaged the stars. We inherited its burden, and now humanity must help bear it." Another advisor, the insectoid strategist Drull, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Do they even understand what they face? These creatures are not invaders or conquerors. They are annihilators. They consume not just worlds, but the very fabric of existence. Without the veil, there is no galaxy left to protect." A meeting of minds. Aboard the UES Aegis, Captain Elijah Kane watched as a secure transmission from the Council flagship blinked to life on his screen. Valon's image appeared, his usual poise replaced with an air of vulnerability. "Captain Kane," Valon began, "I have come to speak plainly." Kane's brow furrowed. "Plain speech has been lacking so far, First Speaker. Now's your chance." Valon hesitated but then nodded. "The Veil Initiative is a containment system, one designed to suppress entities that defy natural law. They are remnants of an ancient war, older than the Council itself. We do not fully understand them, but we know this. If the veil fails, nothing in this galaxy will survive." Kane's expression remained stoic. "And you expect us to take this at face value? That humanity should rally to your side without proof." Valon's voice grew firm. "You've already seen the signs. The Arcanid Hive, the Thrixian Plague, the Silent War. These were not isolated incidents. They were ripples of a much larger storm. The forgotten frontier. On Mars, in a hidden military base, Dr. Elena Ramirez continued her work on the crystal. Late into the night, she stumbled upon a deeply encrypted file, one that resisted every attempt at decryption. With a mix of determination and desperation, she pushed the system to its limits until, at last, the file opened. What she found chilled her to the core. It wasn't just images or warnings, it was a recorded encounter. Grainy footage showed a massive alien entity, its form shifting and incomprehensible, tearing through a fleet of ships with ease. The ships weren't human or council, they were something else entirely. An ancient voice narrated in a language Ramirez didn't recognize, but the tone conveyed a simple, devastating truth. These are not enemies to be fought. They are storms to be survived, a fractured alliance. In the command center, Vega listened to Ramirez's report with growing unease. The Council's warnings had taken on a new gravity, but doubts still lingered. "We've always stood alone," Wolf argued, his voice rising. "Every time the stars have sent us a threat, we've faced it and won. Why change that now?" Chen countered, her tone measured. "Because this isn't a war we can win with guns and grit. If the veil fails, it won't matter how strong our defenses are. This is bigger than us." Vega raised a hand, silencing the debate. "We're not here to argue. We're here to decide. Do we trust the Council enough to stand with them, or do we prepare for the worst on our own terms?" The shadows stir. In the far reaches of the galaxy, beyond the boundaries of known space, the veil shimmered faintly, a barrier of energy stretching across the void. For centuries, it had held back the darkness, but now it flickered, unstable and weakening. Within the veil's depths, something moved. The entities, ancient and formless, sensed the cracks forming. Slowly, deliberately, they pressed against the barrier, their hunger insatiable. Stars dimmed in their wake, and the cold void seemed to grow colder still. On board the Council flagship, alarms blared as sensors detected the disturbance. Valen's advisors scrambled to interpret the data, their panic palpable. "It's begun," Drawl whispered, his mandibles clicking in fear. "The veil is failing." Valon closed his eyes, his voice a low whisper. "Then we're out of time." The turning point. As the shadows loomed closer, humanity and the Council faced their greatest test yet. The fragile trust between them would determine the fate of the galaxy. Could they set aside their fears and doubts to face the oncoming storm together? Or would the weight of their histories and mistrust doom them all? President Vega, standing before her council, took a deep breath. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about what kind of future we're willing to fight for. In the endless darkness of space, the shadows stirred, and the galaxy held its breath.